What was it really like to grow up in Britain during the 1960s? Not the headlines, not the politics, but the little details that shaped daily life. Imagine gathering the whole family around a tiny black and white telly or heating buckets of water just to share a weekly bath. These are the memories that defined a generation. Let's step back in time to discover 15 everyday truths about 1960s Britain, the decade that was simpler, tougher, but in many ways, warmer than today. Number 1. Bath night in a tin tub. For many British families in the early 60s, an indoor bathroom was still a luxury. Instead, Saturday night meant dragging a big tin tub into the kitchen, heating pans of water on the stove, and filling it bit by bit. Children often went in order, the youngest first, the oldest last, and by then the water wasn't exactly fresh. Privacy was almost non-existent. For kids, though, it felt normal. You'd splash about with your siblings while the smell of soap mixed with the steam from the kettle. Today's kids might complain about weak Wi-Fi. Could they even imagine sharing one bath between 4 children? Number 2. The golden age of television. By the mid-60s, televisions had found their way into most living rooms, usually small, black and white, proudly sitting in the corner. Families gathered to watch the Queen's speech, Coronation Street, or Blue Peter. The whole street sometimes timed meals around the same program. There were only a handful of channels, but that created unity. If you missed an episode, there was no catch-up. You simply had to wait. Compare that to today, with endless streaming choices. Some say we've gained freedom. Others say we've lost the joy of everyone talking about the same thing the next morning at school or at work. Number 3. The soundtrack of a generation. The 1960s belonged to British music. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Who, the Kinks. Their songs didn't just top the charts, they changed culture. Teenagers suddenly had their own identity. Records spun on turntables, radios crackled late at night, and young people finally felt the world listening to them. Music wasn't background noise, it was life itself. Imagine being 16, saving wages to buy a new single, then playing it until the grooves wore thin. That excitement has never truly been repeated. Which band was the soundtrack of your youth? Number 4. Simple meals, strong tea. Dinner in the 1960s in Britain wasn't fancy. It was meat and 2 veg, beans on toast, corned beef, and of course, fish and chips on a Friday night wrapped in paper. Rice was exotic, pasta was usually tinned spaghetti hoops, and garlic felt foreign. But meals were shared, homemade, and filling. Tea was constant, milky, and strong. Looking back, it wasn't about variety, it was about comfort and tradition. Today, our supermarkets are global, but how many families still sit together at the table the way they did back then? Number 5. Neighbours and milkmen. The milkman clinking bottles on your doorstep was a daily sound. Everyone knew their neighbours by name. Children played freely in the street, running from house to house until the lampposts lit up. Doors weren't always locked. Parents felt safe letting their kids disappear for hours, trusting someone nearby was keeping an eye out. Compare that with today's world of security cameras and constant check-ins by phone. Do you think we've gained safety or lost trust? Number 6. School days with chalk and canes. Classrooms echoed with chalk squeaking on blackboards, and the crack of the cane wasn't unusual. Teachers had absolute authority, discipline was sharp, and lessons were simple: reading, writing, arithmetic, and respect. For many, school dinners are unforgettable. Lumpy custard, spam fritters, pink sponge cake with custard poured over. Not gourmet, but strangely memorable. Do you remember your first teacher? Were they strict or kind? Number 7. Work, wages, and change. The 1960s saw wages rise nearly 40% since the 1950s. First time, ordinary families could afford appliances, cars, or even a seaside holiday. The job for life in factories and mines was starting to fade as offices and shops grew. More women entered the workforce, bringing new independence. The suit replaced the flat cap, typewriters replaced coal shovels, and the future suddenly felt open. Do you think today's careers are more free or more unstable? Number 8. Fashion revolution. Swinging London was bold and colourful. Carnaby Street and King's Road became symbols of freedom. Mary Quant shocked one generation and liberated another with the miniskirt. Twiggy redefined beauty. Young people weren't copying their parents, they were inventing themselves. Neon tights, geometric patterns, and haircuts that screamed attitude. Clothes stopped whispering status, they shouted rebellion. Looking back, it wasn't just fashion, it was identity stitched into fabric. Number 9. Shared entertainment. Without smartphones or game consoles, entertainment meant togetherness. Families crowded round the radio or telly, kids swapped comics, played marbles, or built dens outside until dark. Football was a kickabout in the park, not an expensive academy. Saturday meant the local cinema or a packet of crisps at the pub garden while your parents chatted. Entertainment was simple, cheap, and shared. Do you think kids today are missing out on that kind of freedom? Number 10. Changing laws, changing lives. The 1960s wasn't just about culture, it was about freedom. Divorce became easier. Homosexuality was decriminalized in 1967. Abortion became legal in certain cases. The Lady Chatterley's lover trial ended censorship. Society began to unbutton its collar, literally and figuratively. For many, these changes felt daring, even shocking, but for others, they meant dignity and new beginnings. It was the start of modern Britain. Number 11. Bath night meets washing machine. By 1966, 60% of British homes had a washing machine. Suddenly, endless scrubbing by hand turned into pushing a button. Vacuum cleaners and fridges followed. These weren't just appliances, they were symbols of progress. For women especially, still expected to manage the house, they meant more time and less exhaustion. Imagine the relief of hanging clothes out without aching hands. For many, it felt like stepping into the future. Number 12. The NHS as pride, not politics. By the 1960s, the NHS was more than policy. It was pride. Doctors visited homes, dentists fixed teeth without fear of bills, nurses ran clinics for free. Every citizen, rich or poor, relied on it equally. In a country still scarred by war, the NHS felt like proof that society could care for everyone. Many say it was one of the last truly unifying institutions. What do you think? Do people still feel that pride today? Number 13. Youth tribes. The mods versus the rockers. Two styles, two identities, two rebellions. Mods on sharp scooters in tailored suits, rockers roaring down the coast in leather jackets. Their clashes in Brighton and Margate made headlines, sparking moral panic. But really, it was about teenagers claiming power for themselves. Music, style, attitude, no longer inherited but created. Today, social media gives tribes online. Back then, they battled in the streets. Which side would you have chosen? Number 14. The empire fades. The sun was setting on the British Empire. Nations across Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean gained independence, forming a new commonwealth. For ordinary people in Britain, it was more a shift in the news than in daily life. But underneath, it was a reckoning with identity. No longer the global power commanding the world, Britain had to learn to listen, not order. It was the quiet start of a humbler nation. Number 15. A spirit that lingers. The 1960s wasn't just a decade, it was a feeling. Cold houses and coal fires, simple meals and shared baths, but also warmth, hope, and a sense of community. Families laughed together, neighbors supported each other, and music promised a brighter tomorrow. Maybe life was harder, maybe choices were fewer, but somehow, many remember it as happier. Do you think Britain was truly better back then? Or do we just look at the past through softer eyes? Let us know in the comments.